Hello and welcome everybody to New Earth Consciousness. I'm here with Tennylle Carnes, and she's a life coach who also has a travel business, and she guides women into the areas of body, fitness, mindset, business, and finances. Her website is tennylle.com. And so, yeah, Tennylle, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, let's dive into your own story. I'd be curious. I'm sure the audience would love to hear your own personal transformation journey and what drew you into life coaching and all of that stuff. So yeah, maybe share with us what was the catapult, I guess, into
Sure.
all of that.
Um, I am a mom of two boys, and when they were younger, I was very invested in doing all the things for them and being team mom. I worked, I was taking care of the home, I did the activities at school, I
Mm.
was doing our finances at home, and I became really overwhelmed, is a good word.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very alone in my marriage. I felt very, and all of this ha was personal. This was the things I decided to take on myself, people
Right.
pleasing.
Right.
Um, but I just became very alone in this process as a mom and
Mm-hmm.
doing all of the things. And I think a lot of women take that on themselves, want to appear like they have it all together. And at some point, I just looked in the mirror and I'm like, this is not the person that I am. And I was angry at my husband, probably resentful that I was taking on all these things that I chose, but it reflected in my life. And so I decided to make some huge shifts on how I showed up for myself, and my children and everyone else in my life for that matter. So it just kind of started the process of what can I do to bring more ease into my life and to show up for myself and to be the best version of me for my children.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's so common. Mothers finding themselves in total burnout,
Mhm.
and I think that unfortunately we've created a culture or society where we don't have the extended support, right? We
Mhm.
become moms and really we suddenly become very isolated.
Mhm.
We don't, it takes somewhat more of an extra effort to, I don't know, build that community. It's like, I think generations past, you had the extended family, right?
Sure.
And in our modern world, it's just you and the kids. And then even now, it's like you can't even just let the children go play in the neighborhood. You got to arrange
Right.
play dates and you got to drive them places, and then on top of that, we're expected to also be breadwinners and bringing in
Right.
income. And it's like, it's so much. And then, yeah, it's
Yeah.
no wonder that after some time we begin to realize like, wow, I'm really unhappy because I've abandoned myself to
Right.
all these things that I think that I somehow should be performing well in,
Hmm.
right? And it's
Well,
not to say that, right? I mean, it's important to be there for our kids. So I'm curious, like,
right.
what kind of, how did you pull yourself out of that and yet, of course, continue to be a great mom, right? Like, what
Right.
was what
Yeah.
was the shift?
Well, I think just to kind of piggyback on that, and I totally agree that women put so much on themselves, but and I think that this happens with men as well, just in
Mm,
business. They're
sure.
just
Hmm.
really defined by their role. But women, I think we just compare ourselves so much to other people and they're doing it. And I
Mm,
want to, and they seem to have it all together. I want to appear like that. And there's a lot to be said about asking for help. We just, as women, don't do that. We're used to juggling all of the things. And so
mhm,
for me, when I started the process, I really, I started with meditation
mm,
and hiking.
mm,
I've always been into fitness, but I never was creating that time for myself um, daily, really just implementing that in my life. And this was a non-negotiable. And so I started hiking more outside. Being outdoors was um, extremely important to me. I live in a city, and
mhm,
then being around people all the time, I really needed to get out in nature. And so I started hiking at trails by my house several times a week and having that time for myself. And then I would just meditate. Um, and that was extremely uncomfortable because I've always thought meditation was like very woo-woo, and
mm,
I don't need
mhm,
to do this.
mm.
And I don't know how, and I was really self-taught at the beginning. Um, and extremely uncomfortable because you're so used to being everywhere, and women are wired to think about everything and how it relates to the next thing. And so just really trying to be present with your breath and mindful is extremely hard. But once I started doing that after weeks, weeks at a time, it
Mhm.
became easier and easier. And there was a huge, that in itself was such a huge shift for me. Um,
What did you
so
notice? What did you notice change?
calm, a
Calm,
lot
just
of
having a,
calm.
yeah, much more calm. Mhm,
Yeah, a lot more peaceful. I
mhm,
wasn't anxious
mhm,
as much, there wasn't that major stress. Um, I I just was really settling into being more, and I did start cutting out a few things in my life. The school PTA things, if I can't do that, I'm gonna set that aside. And if I'm not at every one of their school class events, that's okay too, you know.
yeah.
Um, So those kinds of things, I just started relinquishing a little bit at a time, those sorts of things. And then with the meditation, that was such a shift in my life. And then I was started reading more about it. I started reading about law of attraction
Mhm,
and some of the great thinkers in that field.
mhm,
And it just integrated more and more into my life.
yeah. Yeah, and so, yeah, the law of attraction and, the subconscious, we don't
Hmm.
realize, how, I mean, it's tricky, right? I was just reading
Mm.
the other day about how this self-image, or how you think of yourself, how you see yourself,
Hmm.
is so important. And so you could want all day long to you know be the person who is confident, is successful, has
Hmm.
what she wants, but if you see yourself as the opposite,
Right,
you'll never get there. So
right.
it's really tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, law of attraction is really beautiful, and it's consistent work, because you have all these limited beliefs and you were raised to think certain ways, and
Hmm.
trying to reprogram that in my late 40s.
Yeah.
It's quite a task, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, I've built up a lot of thoughts. And but knowing that what I am I am waiting for other people to show up in a way that will make me feel good is the exact opposite of what law of attraction is, which is I am responsible for how I feel, and that is what I'm calling into my life.
Yeah.
And when I learned that, you really have to be present with your thoughts a lot and own them. That this is not okay, this is something that is programmed that I'm thinking this person needs to behave such and such way, but they have their own, um, limited beliefs and they have their own conditions that they've brought along the way too, and a lot of it's not personal. So just learning to kind of mind my own business more.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Ta Taking out the news media,
Yeah.
watching what am I watching on TV? What am I listening to? What am I pouring into myself? I really had to kind of hide for a while
Yeah.
and just learn about me, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's so important to be discerning about, yeah, what
Mm,
are you taking in? And I think
mhm.
back to like music, for example, and so many of like our favorite quote unquote tunes, whatever, growing up and stuff. I mean, even now, it's like you listen to them and a lot of them are really depressing, actually. Like the words that when you actually listen to
Yeah.
the words, you're just like, oh my gosh. Like even this morning I was doing my movement, I like to I'm trying to get back into dancing and movement
Mm,
just to put myself in a good state, right?
right.
Um and it was Aretha Franklin's Chain of Fools, and I'm listening to this. I'm like, this is a terribly depressing song. It's like she's
Yeah.
powerless to this man she's just adding herself as one of the chain of, herself as a chain of fools.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. And so um yeah, we are so bombarded with so much we don't even realize, I feel like, of what we're taking in.
Hmm.
And so yeah, when you practice that mindfulness meditation, right,
Hmm.
you start to become more aware.
Yeah.
Like even, I mean, movies, for example, I find it challenging to sit through a movie because it's usually most of them are pretty bad. It's very
Yeah.
rare I
Yeah.
feel like that I find a movie that was like, oh yeah, that was worth my time.
Yeah.
Kind of, I agree with you. And of course, like nature being so important to
Hmm.
stay regulated and in our bodies, coming back to
Hmm.
our bodies.
Um, yeah, I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. I've just found that I enjoy quiet a little bit more, and I read and I like to continually educate myself. So I really withdrew a lot from TV in general. And I watch with my sons,
Yeah,
movies and stuff. But
right.
even the violence that we saw when we were young, or thought was violent, is so very different now.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah, it's kind of over the
going,
top now.
yeah, yeah, it is. And, when we're talking about our reality, a lot of times we are only seeing a very small portion of what is really going on around us. So what we think is real right now, even,
Right.
there's is like 1% of all of the things that are happening around us in this moment. But my reality is this particular thing. You have somebody else in the same room with me, and they could be viewing it completely different. And so that kind of goes back to how I was thinking that, I needed to perform or I need to be a certain way or this is how people are looking at me. And I think a lot of people think that about themselves, women, oh, people are watching me do or, perform or not perform this. So yeah, it's a beautiful practice, law of attraction. And I really have dove into that as well. And just giving myself grace and learning
Mhm.
how can I be the best version of me? And then I started implementing more and more fitness and taking more courses and certifications and kind of pulling all of this together. I have my own life coach, and I think everybody should have coaches.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think it's really important that everyone has somebody in their life that is calling them forward.
Yeah.
And often when it's a family member or a friend or something, they'll give you breaks. It's like you have a particular goal, but they're like, oh, it's okay you didn't stick to your nutrition this week, for example. It's all right. And they'll dismiss it where a coach is really kind of holding you accountable. And different coaches are softer, gentler, or more assertive, depending on what you need.
Yeah.
So I have a life coach, and he's very in your face, but he really got me out of my comfort zone and was like, this is what you want for yourself, and this is what you're gifted at, and you need to start presenting that,
Mhm.
to the world. And I'm very much an introvert. So that was, really tough for me to just tell even friends that I'm going through all these shifts and they saw it, but they didn't know what was going on. And so really presenting all the things that I'm studying and how I'm exercising and all of that, just it's very vulnerable, because you're really sharing yourself to the world now.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, this is true. I know for myself, I think one of the hardest things when you're in the process of wanting to recreate your life
mhm,
or yeah, recreate yourself or express yourself in a different way, it's hard to break out of that because people will see you as, well, I know you as this. And now you're
right.
doing this? Like, who do you think
Mhm,
you are? I mean, not everybody's judging. I mean, probably most people don't really care. I mean, ultimately, right? But, I think in our mind, we tend to think of it that way, like, oh,
mhm,
maybe they're, you know, thinking I'm crazy or what is she doing? And maybe some of that is could be true or even to encounter jealousy from friends.
mhm,
Like, um, when you start to I think it is really true that when you start to shift your vibration,
mhm,
some people just fall away because
right.
for whatever reason, it's like just no longer, and that can be hard because it you may have known these people for a long time and
Mhm,
but now it's just not a fit anymore. So there is I forget who it was that said this, but it's like if you want things in your life if you want things in your life to change, you have to change the things in your life, right?
mhm,
Like you
mhm,
you really have to be able to let go of some things.
right. Yeah, I have a lot of friends, and I think I have quite a bit of support. But I'm sure there is some judgment because years ago I used to party with them and I would hang out and do all of those things where I'm much more conscious about how I spend my time now. And like I said, I have non-negotiables in my life, and I have a morning practice that I do
Mhm.
with my that I do for myself. And fitness is part of my life every single day. And so putting that out there, they're like, oh, she's showing off. And I'm not. I'm trying to inspire other
Right.
women and calling them forward,
Hmm.
because when you start feeling better and you really start feeling that shift in your own life, you want that for other people. And
Yeah.
some people don't want to be there,
Yeah.
or it's so uncomfortable. You have to get past that comfort zone thing, in order to really create new realities in your life. And some people that they just want to be so comfortable, they're not willing to go past that, or like we were saying, those limited beliefs we have. Well, I've tried to lose weight and it always comes back, which is law of attraction in itself, because
Right.
you
Right.
keep
You're
repeating
telling
the
yourself.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they just don't even want to try now. Oh, I've done it before and it's not going to work. You have these genes or this, happened to you. You have time for this. And, so there is a lot of there is some loss in that, and that's okay. I'm not meant for everyone at this stage of my
Hmm.
life anymore,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I want to bring in people that are at that stage, or calling me even higher, you know.
Yeah. Um, it seems to me, yeah, there's an interesting distinction, I think, between, you know, being comfortable versus feeling good, right? Because the law of attraction,
Mhm.
from what I've gathered, is like you have to say yes to always doing the best you can to feel good, right? To feel better,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Like
yeah.
whatever that looks like. If you're down, wake up and you're down in the dumps, okay, what's something I can do that can shift my state? Because
Hmm.
you can't attract something positive, right? If you're kind of stuck in a more downward state. But I think for people, um, when they're waking up, let's say in a bad mood or whatever, the comforting thing to do would be like, okay, well, I'm gonna go eat a donut or something. You know what I mean? Like, or
Right.
I'm just gonna watch some Netflix until this feeling goes away, or I don't know,
Right,
whatever. It's like
right.
usually a pattern of wanting to numb out.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly. And yeah, but when you do make the changes, then you're always going to have another uncomfortable
right.
season, right? And it's that's hopefully the goal, is that I think I used to think that uncomfortable is stop. Oh, this is uncomfortable. This doesn't feel right. I'm going to stop. Where that's where a lot of people, even in business,
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's talk about business
don't
because
move, yeah, don't move forward because, oh, this isn't working and I'm going to stop. And then they don't push forward to the point where usually they're right there, where they just go over
Mhm.
the hump, and then they have that,
Yeah, they
that
lose that
the
faith or
abundant,
yeah, the doubt starts creeping in.
yeah. And I think in anything, people working out, for example, I go to the gym often. I'm very big on weight training,
Hmm.
and I think that's really important for women as we age because we lose muscle so much.
Hmm.
But that being said, a lot of women don't want to look foolish in the gym,
Hmm.
so they don't do those things, or they have so much weight that they've put on in years of not taking care of their bodies through food, through alcohol, whatever.
Hmm.
It takes a while to get that off. You're not going to just go and see a huge transformation. There are small shifts every day. If you change 1% of your behavior every single day, at the end of the year, you're a completely different person. And doing that year after year, it's life changing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I I remember having a conversation with somebody who realized she was really in a rut, like just
Mhm.
mentally, spiritually, whatever. And she decided, I need to switch things up because those neural pathways, they get so strong, and it's just like we're just doing them over and over and over again, and we're not actually creating new ones. And so she would she said, I started with getting to work in a different route. You know, I don't know, she just created all these, things that she would normally do. She just switched it all up. Like she
Yeah.
kept picking one thing that she would do differently. And it
That's
can
a Joe
really,
Dispenza
is
thing,
that
I think. Yeah.
interesting? I'd never heard of that. I thought, oh, that's fascinating. And I think, and actually, Rudolf Steiner, I don't know if you know him, but he's the one that created Waldorf education and
Mhm.
anthroposophy and stuff. Anyway, he's from like the late 1800s, and it's actually, I think, in one of his meditations, it's like as a spiritual practice actually of like of changing like the little tiny habits. Like if you always put your keys here, change it
Mhm.
up, and you're going to start to put your keys over here. Like little things
Mhm.
like that to just
Yeah.
keep your mind active and aware.
I've heard to brush your teeth with your other hand. And I have
Oh,
tried that. I've tried that a few times, and oh my gosh, it's the most awkward, uncomfortable feeling. But you know what I mean? You
yeah.
don't realize how programmed or how we as a people are so programmed in doing the same thing. I get up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, I go make my coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you just switch that up, and for 5 minutes, I'm going to meditate or I'm going to say affirmations to myself before I do this, before I implement something else. It does starts really changing your neural pathways. Yeah.
Yeah. And the littlest things, it's like you said, changing your morning routine. Like, okay, instead of getting up and just making that pot of coffee, what if you got up and you were like, okay, I'm going to drink this full glass of water with a little Celtic sea salt. I'm going to drink that
Right.
before I drink my
Right.
coffee. Or, one little extra self-nourishing act, and
Mm-hmm.
if you do that right every day long
Mm-hmm.
term, you do start to feel the difference when we break out of
Mm-hmm.
those old patterns. Yeah, super interesting. So I want to talk about your travel business. I'm really curious about
Okay.
it because um I found, well, I used to travel a lot when I was young because my father was working for United Airlines. So I
Oh,
flew for free
fantastic. Yes.
everywhere. Like it was crazy good, like even first
Yeah.
class, and I didn't have to pay a dime.
Right.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
But in that lasted until I was 25. And so there was this huge long stretch of where I didn't travel because I was like, "Pff, I can't afford it, right?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I have a friend that lives in Morocco, and last year the money came and I was like, this has been on my bucket list for years. She's been asking me for years to come see her. And I finally went. And it was life changing. Like it was
Yes.
so, I don't know, just so eye-opening um and it just broadens your mind. I remember when I was sharing this with people, they're like, aren't you afraid it's a Muslim country? Like, what if, is it safe for women there? And, I'm like,
Mm.
well, my friend says it's safer than the United States. I'm going to trust her. And it was
Yeah.
true. I felt
Yeah.
so safe there. And people were so kind and
Mm-hmm.
it was magical, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, so yeah, tell us about what you do in your travel business. Because I do think travel can be such a blessing when it comes to really shifting your mindset and how you view yourself in the world.
Yeah. Travel is one of my greatest passions in life. I just think it's so important to see outside of your community, outside
Mhm.
of this little box that we live in.
Yeah.
And so I worked for corporate for a number of years, and probably about 20 years ago, I was doing all of their travel international for a lot of employees that were overseas. And so I learned all the tricks, and um, during that, I was finding really good airfare for myself.
Uh-huh. Nice.
So I was online and I'd find like ridiculous um, flights somewhere, and I'd call my husband, okay, I think we can book this. And he was like, okay, let's do it. And because he grew up traveling a lot with his family when he was young as well, to the Middle East and all of that. So he was really into it too. And so when I had my boys, I really wanted to integrate that in their lives. I thought it was so important for them to just start seeing other cultures, how other people lived, how blessed we are,
Yeah.
how different and beautiful life is in our world, outside of our city, and to have time for our family. And that's probably really what kept us me together with my husband for so long, is we really loved those vacations, and it was such a beautiful experience. And so I traveled international. My youngest was one, I think, the first time we took him, and we wanted them to get comfortable on the airlines. Probably you know this, being that your dad was
Yeah.
United, just flying at a young age and getting them used to traveling and longer hours and all of that. And they have the bug too. So yeah, we went international, a lot of places, and then I started having friends that were like, "Where are you going? And how did you get that trip for this amount, or what have you?" And
Mm.
then I was building group trips for our friends and stuff. So at some point after I got divorced, and I had always wanted to kind of get into travel to some extent because I really enjoy traveling so much. And after my husband and I divorced, I was in that place. I'm like, talking about the uncomfortable zone, I want to do this, and I want to be able to have opportunities to take my children places and have that income to do so. And who better to package that than me, because I know what to do
Mhm.
and have all of the incentives that you can get in the travel business. So I started, and I built my own business from that. Um, and it is a great experience to be able to do that for other people, because those are the core memories I feel
Mm.
for
This is true.
families, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, when I took my son to the Grand Canyon, my
Mm,
friend invited me and my son. She's like, we're gonna do a father son or father mother son trip to the Grand Canyon, and I'd never. I mean, I'm honestly, I'm not much of a backpacker at all. I mean, I'll hike and
mhm.
stuff, but that's pretty much the extent of it. And at first, and I said, "Oh, yeah, sure." And I thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, this is a cost must cost thousands of dollars. You probably have to get a guide." And I knew nothing about it. She's like, "Yeah, you just put your name in the lottery, and if you win, it's only $8 a night for however many days it was, right?"
Right.
And I thought, "Oh my God, I had no idea." So I said, "Sure." Secretly hoping we wouldn't win. Secretly hoping that I wasn't going to have to be called out and, sign up for this trip. Because,
Mhm.
it's like, okay, then that means I got to get the backpacking gear. We're going to have to get the
Mhm.
flight to Vegas and get ourselves to the Grand Canyon, all rent
Right.
a car and everything. So, turned out we won. And we're
Yeah.
like, okay, I guess I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And it was extremely intense. Three of us who had never hiked the Grand Canyon before were out there by ourselves with and my son at the time was 10, which is, I guess, I realized was the youngest you can
Yeah.
be to hike it. So we were out there for a week essentially, and we hiked 50 miles, and just magical. I mean, I physically felt different and
Right.
like you said, like I will never forget that. My son will never forget that experience.
Right.
You know, it's true. Like we want to have, I think a life well lived is
Hmm.
one in which you have memories, right?
Yeah.
You have unique memories and it's like how many people are just wasting their life on
Hmm.
the screen, watching videos or scrolling or whatever. Like every time we do that, that's like a blank, there's nothing happening there.
Hmm.
You're never gonna be like, oh, I remember that one time I went to that website. It was so good. You know what I mean? You're never gonna be, oh, that one movie just was, oh, you're gonna be thinking about the places and the people and the real lived experiences. And
Right.
travel for sure is one that you can't forget, it doesn't
Hmm.
get erased. Yeah.
Yeah. And big and small, I try to make investments into that as much as possible. And my oldest is going to be going away to college this year. So all the more purpose to have that. We're going over spring break. I'm taking them to Europe. Um, because I don't know how many opportunities I'm going to have with just them to be
Mm,
able to do this. Um, and as a mom, I want them to see that a woman is capable of doing all of these things with her son
mm,
as well. I want them to see a legacy from me, um, because I think that's really important for men, for boys to see their mom
mm.
empowered
Yeah.
and growing in her own knowing, right? So it is, I just really enjoy doing that for other people. And yeah, there's some pain to it. Airports, train,
Yeah, sure.
the
Yeah, all the
flights, all of that
mishaps.
stuff. Those
Lose
those
your
aren't the fun
passport.
things. Those aren't always the fun things, but I think it's so important and critical to create that time um, with your children, with your loved ones. And so, yeah, I started doing that. And then, as of recent, with my life coaching, I'm starting to integrate wellness retreats as well. I actually am I have a photographer that she's done some photo shoots for just my businesses. And we're talking at the end of this week about wellness retreats and her coming and doing photography for other women in their businesses or other coaches that need to have branding done for their websites or whatever.
Mm,
So it's fun to kind of explore different opportunities and with women, that want to do those things too, wouldn't necessarily by themselves, go on a wellness retreat. But when you have a collaboration of other people or a community of women that are kind of like-minded, it can really be beautiful.
hmm. Yeah, definitely. Amazing. So, share with the audience, like what kind of offers do you have right now?
Well, all of my um travel, for example, it's all tailored. It's all hand curated. So
Wow.
I'm not going to be like an online platform where you just go and pick and I truly get on calls and have clarity calls with all of my clients, and this goes for my life coaching as well. What are you wanting? What's your intention? What do you enjoy? And I build a trip around that for them.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah. All hand curated, and then I have various suppliers that I work hand in hand with,
Uh-huh.
and they pull everything together for me. Yeah.
Hmm. So you kind of take the headache out of somebody trying to figure out and go through the online space
Yeah.
and trying to find things like Because I think that's one of the hardest things that can be one of the hardest things about travel is that, for example, booking an Airbnb and then you
Yeah,
get there and it's actually not that nice, or
right.
it's not what you expect it to
This
be.
is, and a lot of people that go international don't have any idea. Like the thought of going here might be nice, but when I'm talking to them, like I really want to go to the tropical blah blah blah, and Cabo sounds great, for example. Well,
Mm.
Cabo is very desert.
Right, it's not, yeah,
It's so,
not
and people
tropical.
and some people don't know that, or you
Right.
can't swim the ocean there because there's huge rip currents. So just having that clarity and having someone that knows kind of
Those
about
details.
international
Yeah.
places. And then as well, I'll put transfers together from them. So you get off of your flight and you get a transfer to your hotel and all the tours that they're interested in and things that are you a foodie? Do you want to see museums? Do you want to, all of those kinds of things. I piece together all of that, rail.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of one big itinerary. I have a client right now who has a 35-page itinerary. She's going 2.5 weeks to Australia, New Zealand, and she wants to do everything.
Oh, wow.
Um, so I just line everything up. You're going to be picked up here and stay at this hotel, and then picked up this day, next flight or rail or what have you. Yeah. And you can't you can't really piece that together when you're not familiar with how all of that works, especially going to other countries,
Yeah,
right?
right,
So I
right.
take a lot of the headache out of it.
Nice. Beautiful. Um, yeah. So is there anything else you'd like to close with?
No, I just really appreciate the time. Like I said, you have a very soothing voice, and I just really enjoy chatting with you.
Ah,
So I thank
thank,
you for
thank you, you too. You have a
having
very
that
chill vibe
that
as
time.
well.
Yeah.
It's really nice. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Tenille, and to the audience. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, be well. Thank you, Tenille.
Thank you.